Kelly, followed by Mr. McLeod. Mr. Kelly.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to all of our presenters. So, Mr. Scholes, 6. That is a staggering well count for a month. Could you put that in perspective and tell us how that June well count compares to averages long term, or even over last year, or any other comparison you might give us for perspective?
Certainly. Thanks for the question. I remember quite vividly sitting in my office in the middle of June, and I get a daily rig report, which gives me a bit of a synopsis of where the rigs are working across Western Canada as well as the offshore side of the business. And, it was quite scary. There were 6 rigs in all of Western Canada, a couple, 3 in Alberta, none in Saskatchewan, and a couple in British Columbia. To give you an idea of what we would be in a normal year, it would be in and around 100 rigs. And, between, in the June area, we would be starting to ramp up for our summer programs and beginning to ramp up further into the fall. But there were, out of that 6, there were only 2 companies out of Canada's 24 drilling contractors operating in June. And what was even more startling is the fact that even in the March of June, 75% of Canada's drilling rig contractors hadn't spun a wheel since March. Okay, so it's a very serious situation.
Yeah, that's staggering. How many rigs have left Canada for the United States since 2015?
Well, the most important stat to really highlight is how many of our high-spec drilling rigs have left. And we estimate about 28 of our most sophisticated drilling rigs have left Canada for destinations like the Permian, the Eagle Ford, and other U.S. destinations.
Okay. So it's fair to say that the policies of this government have been entirely unfavorable to Canadian investment, but have been advantageous to investments in oil and gas in other jurisdictions.
What I would say is this is a global business. We try to incentivize capital to come into Canada from all across the world, and capital is going to go to destinations that have the greatest return for investment.
Okay. So the investment opportunities have not, since 2015, have been in oil-producing jurisdictions outside of Canada.
What I would say is, when you look around the world, the Canadian basin has not performed as well as the U.S. basin nor other international basins. That would be correct.
Now, in terms of reducing emissions, and is it fair to say then that carbon leakage is a significant factor in the policies that have, in other words, when activity merely moves from one jurisdiction to another, we are not reducing or contributing to a reduction in global GHGs, but merely punishing the Canadian economy?
Well, I would add to that, and I would say that because we don't have as much investment in Canada, let's be very frank, Canadians are the innovators when it comes to a lot of this technology that is going to allow us to reduce emissions. And so when you look at things like biofuel technology, where we can use natural gas as well as diesel in our engines, highline electrification of our rigs, where we actually have no emissions whatsoever in terms of scope 1 emissions, we can power our rigs directly from high lines of the electricity grid. And the other example I would give you, Canadian downhole technology, in terms of how we've been so productive in drilling efficiencies and optimization. There are generally wells 10, 15, 20 years ago would take 40 days to drill. We're drilling them in 10 days now. And so when you look at it from the basis of emissions, that's a 75% reduction in overall emissions. That's Canadian technology that we want to build right here in our country.
Yeah, what a fantastic good news story. But if Canadian technology is part of the solution to a better efficiency and reduction in emissions, but investment is being chased to other jurisdictions, that's not going to help us achieve any kind of goal or support our economy. Only a few moments left. I'll maybe just throw it to Mr. Goodman then to get him in, and if he wants to comment on the clean fuel standard and the implications for both consumers and industry, and I'll throw it to you then, sir, for that final question.
Sure, I can quickly answer that as the chair moves us on here. I think there are certainly opportunities within the clean fuel standards. There's a large debate that is going to continue around the clean fuel standards. What I can say is that a lot of the innovation that Mr. Schultz was talking about has great application within that. There is debate as to the impact on Canadians from a disposable income perspective, but there's no question that there will be some changes coming up, both some opportunities from an oil and gas perspective, as well as some challenges on the implementation. Thank you.